This man is blind but became a master in his craft, admired by everyone. He is seen as a living miracle in Korea. This is Dong, the son of a famous seal maker. Dong's ordinary life is suddenly shattered when the police call. They have discovered skeletal remains buried in the mountains, identified by a decaying ID card as belonging to his mother. His father said she left the family 40 years ago, but now it seems she was murdered. Dong, who was a baby when she disappeared, has no memory of her. His blind father has no photo. At her mother's funeral, the relatives from her mother's side came. Her own family members spoke about her with contempt and shame, just because they thought she was beautiful. In reality, they were only there to say that they could not give her any share of the inheritance their grandfather left behind. Feeling disappointed, Dawn said that she didn't even want the inheritance anymore. Her own family members speak of her with contempt and shame, solely due to her perceived lack of beauty. A young documentary producer, Sujin, who was initially filming a profile on this incredible life, sees a much juicier story and convinces Dawn to join her in investigating his mother's death. They desperately search for a single picture of young Hee to give her remains a proper funeral. Dawn and Sujin begin interviewing people who knew his mother in the 1970s, primarily at the garment factory where she worked. These interviews form the backbone of the story, serving as unreliable windows into the past. At her workplace, she once asked her supervisor for permission to go to the restroom. He gave her only 1 minute. But the restroom was crowded, she couldn't make it in time. In front of everyone, she lost control and people laughed. They mocked her, joked about her humiliation like it was entertainment. Dong was heartbroken. Around kept calling his mother ugly. People wondered if anyone had ever hated her enough to hurt her. But the boss simply said he had no problem with her and suggested they ask a woman who knew more. Dong went to see an elderly lady who used to work with his mother. The old woman revealed, through tears, that his mother once worked as her assistant and that she had been deeply wronged by someone powerful. Their boss, the one everyone respected, was actually a man who pretended to be kind. He always smiled, spoke sweetly, and acted generous in front of others. But behind that mask was a cruel truth. Later, when the old woman stopped coming to work, the boss said she'd be replaced. Unhappy, she confronted him, but he shouted that's not true. More talking nonsense. And threw her out of the office. Frustrated, she wrote a letter exposing his immorality and shared it with others. People started avoiding the boss. Even the woman who had suffered in the past turned against her, not because she was wrong, but because she was ashamed that others might know what had happened. People, after all, cared more about gossip than justice. Later, Dong learned that his mother's death was indirectly caused by that same woman's silence. She came to him and apologized with tears. When Dong and Sujin confronted the boss, he drove them away. Only when offered money did he finally speak. He called in the husband of the so-called ugly woman and told him to discipline his wife. The man reluctantly agreed. Then the boss called again to beat the couple. The next day, when the woman came to confront him, he got furious again. He ordered his men to beat her so badly she couldn't get up for days. When the gang arrived, her blind husband carried her. They chased them down a mountain. There, he left her body behind and the gang buried her. He took a camera from Sujin's place, one that secretly held evidence, and began to uncover the truth. Don asked his father, "Why did you kill my mother?" The old man said quietly, "All my life, I was humiliated and beaten. I was just trying to survive." He told his story how he learned to carve seals to earn a living, opened a small shop, and met a young woman who was kind to him. She smiled at him, cooked for him, and made him feel loved. They married. But soon, people around him began to mock him, laughing behind his back. They said he was lucky to get such a woman. Only one friend said, "It's better that you can see her." That's when he learned the cruel truth: his wife was not beautiful in others' eyes. and people were laughing at them both. He began to suspect that even his wife looked down on him. Surrounded by mockery and shame, he couldn't take it anymore. He thought the humiliation would never end. He loved her purely because he couldn't see what others called ugliness, but anger consumed him. In his pain, he took her life and left her body on the mountain himself. When Dong heard this, he broke down. His father told him, "We did it to avoid shame. You must accept this," but Dong replied, "No, you're just a murderer," and walked away, his heart shattered forever. Dong finally acquires the one surviving photograph of his mother, a recruitment photo taken for her factory job. The horror is not in her appearance, but in the absolute, crushing cruelty of the people who saw her as a monster simply because she was not beautiful.